Salutations, this is Crazed Kitsune, aka Khuma'zi Tayuun, and welcome to Summoner for Dummies Level 50. In this video, I'm going to be covering all of the basics you're going to need to know in order to play Summoner up to level 50. This is going to include how you become a Summoner, and what stat is most important. With the introduction out of the way, Summoners are a magic DPS class, meaning they deal damage. Their primary stat is intelligence. The more of it they have, the more damage they do. So you want lots of it. Apologies for the clicking. I'm a little stuffed up lately, so rather than subject you to the sounds of that, I mute my mic, which makes that clicking noise. Now, in order to become a summoner, you need to level the Arcanist class to level 30 and have completed all of the Arcanist class quests, and then do the level 30 summoner job quest, which will allow you to become a summoner. With all of that out of the way, let's go take a look at our traits. At level 6, we get Ether Dam, which lets us hold 1 stack of Ether Flow. At level 20, we gain Enhanced Intelligence, which increases our intelligence by 8, allowing us to do more damage, so really useful. We also get Maim and Mend, which increases the damage and health restoration from our actions and those of our pets by 10%. Quite nice. And we also, at level 20, get Ether Dam 2, which lets us hold 2 stacks of Ether Flow. Quite helpful. At level 26, we acquire Corruption Mastery, which will replace our Bio spell with Bio 2, because Bio 2 is just better. At level 40, we get Enhanced Intelligence 2, which increases our intelligence by 16. More damage! Whee! We also get, at level 40, Maim and Mend 2, which is a 30% increase to the damage we and our pet will do. Huzzah, huzzah! And the last trait we get before level that is within the level 50 range, the rest of the next couple we'll be dealing with in a different video, is Ether Dam 3, also at level 40, which lets us stack our third and final possible stack of Ether Flow. Ether Flow is very useful, and we'll get into that quite soon. So let's go look at the actions for Arcanist first, and then we'll look at the Summoner ones. And then we'll get into some other things. There's a lot to learn about this class. At level 1, we have Ruin. This is our basic damage spell. It is a global cooldown spell, meaning that it is on a 2.5 second recast time, and during that recast time you can't use any other spells or global cooldown ability skills. And it has a 2.5 second cast time, so the global cooldown doesn't really matter, because when you finish casting you're also finished waiting for the cooldown. At level 60 it costs 176 MP. And it is a potency 100 attack. It has a range of 25 yalms. All ranged damage abilities have a range of 25 yalms, generally speaking. There might be a couple that have different ranges, but I don't recall seeing any. At level 2, we acquire Bio. This is an instant cast global cooldown spell, which costs 353 MP at level 60. It is a potency 40 damage over time effect that will last for 18 seconds, dealing its damage about once every 3 seconds. At level 4, we acquire one of the most important spells in a summoner's repertoire, Summon. It is a 3-second cast time global cooldown spell that at level 60 costs 884 MP. It summons a caster-type pet to fight at your side, allowing you to deal some extra damage. You also acquire Physic. This is a 2-second cast time global cooldown healing spell that costs 442 MP and has a 30 yalm range, and it has a cure potency of 400. This does not mean that you are also a healer. Healing magic effects are based off of your mind stat. Summoner has a relatively low mind, so it's not going to do a lot. But if you're in dire straits for healing, you may need to toss this out just to help the healers. Hopefully that never happens, because it's not going to heal by a lot. Trust me. At level 6, you acquire the ability Ether Flow. This is a 60-second cooldown. It will restore 10% of your maximum MP instantly upon use, and will give you, depending on what level of Ether Dam trait you currently have, stacks of Ether Flow, up to 3. These stacks will last until used. They do not fall off on their own. The first skill you get that can use Ether Flow is Energy Drain, also acquired at level 6. It is a 3-second cooldown off global ability that has a potency 150 attack. It will absorb some of the damage it does and restore your health, and will also restore some of your MP. And it has an Ether Flow cost of 1. Ignore the Ethereal Attunement, that's for after level 50. At level 10, we get Miasma, our second damage over time effect, or dot if you prefer. It is a global cooldown spell that takes 2.5 seconds to cast. It costs 442 MP at level 60. It has a direct impact potency of 20 and applies a potency 35 damage over time effect that will last for 24 seconds, dealing its damage every 3 seconds, approximately. At level 15, through your level 15 Arcanist class quest, and you should be doing your class quests because if you don't do them, you can't get this spell, Summon 2 is acquired. It is in almost all regards identical to Summon. Same cast time, recast, and cost. But it will summon a tank-type pet to fight at your side. This pet has more health. It doesn't do as much damage, but has abilities specifically designed to build hate on the enemy so that they focus on your pet and not you. At level 18, you learn Sustain. This is a 1-second cast time, global cooldown healing spell that you do want to use if it's needed. It costs 442 MP, so it's the same as casting your physics spell, and what it does is apply a 9-second continuous healing effect to your pet. They will continuously recover 8% of their health. Because it's a healing spell, it has a 30 yalm range. If your pet is getting its face beaten in, you're gonna want to use Sustain, because pets don't show up in the party list for anyone but you. Which means the only way a healer knows your pet needs healing is it's currently in their field of view and they see it's missing health. Don't rely on a healer to heal your pet. They have to heal your party. They have to heal you. They have to heal themselves. You should take care of your pet. Also at level 18, you get Resurrection. This is an 8-second cast time global cooldown healing spell that costs 2,652 MP. That's expensive. It is used to revive a fallen party member. They will be weakened, but it's better than not having them. And if you're in a party, you should be the one reviving before your healer because your MP is much less precious than theirs. Their MP can run out so much faster than yours, it's not even funny. So, help your party. If somebody dies, get them back on their feet, especially if it's the healer. At level 26, you acquire Bio 2, which will replace Bio. It is, like Bio, an instant cast global cooldown spell. At level 60, it costs 530 MP. And it's a potency 35 instead of 40 damage over time effect, but the reason it's better is it lasts for 30 seconds instead of 18. Those extra 4 ticks result in more damage. At level 30, your final class quest will reward you with Bane. This 10-second instant cast ability will spread the bio and miasma effects you have on the targeted enemy to all enemies within an 8-yalm radius of them. Now, the spread dots will lose potency for each extra enemy that it's passed to. So the second enemy that is inflicted will receive a 20% reduced amount of damage. The third enemy will take 40% less, the fourth enemy will take 60% less, and all further targets are taking 80% less damage from it. Yeah, it's not a lot of damage if you have like 5 or more things, meaning the 5th and beyond are taking only 20% of the damage of your normal damage for the dot, but it's still damage, so you should still use it. The duration of the spread effects will be the same as the time remaining on the original effect. There is a 15% chance that bio and miasma durations will reset if shorter than the original effect duration. This ability costs you 1 ether flow to use. Again, ignore ethereal attunement, that's for post 50. That's a different video. At level 38, you acquire Ruin 2. This is an instant cast global cooldown spell with a MP cost of 353 at level 60. It is a potency 100 attack, meaning it has the exact same damage as Ruin for twice the cost. You use this primarily if you can't stand still long enough to get a cast off, or would otherwise be interrupted. At level 42, you get Rouse. This is a 60-second cooldown that will increase the damage your pet does by 40%, and make them immune to stun, sleep, bind, and heavy for 20 seconds. This is a very useful cooldown for when you're doing maximum damage output as soon as possible. And at level 50, the final ability Arcanists can acquire is Shadow Flare, a 60-second cooldown that lets you place a 10-yalm wide damage over time zone on the ground, which will deliver a potency 50 attack to any enemies inside of it about every 3 seconds for 15 seconds. It will also apply a 5% slow, making them use their actions and attacks less frequently for as long as they remain inside the area of effect. And it can't be used with any other area creating actions of yours. You can stack them on top of area creating actions from other players, but you can't have multiple of your own up. Though at present I don't think summoners have any other area creating actions. Now, let's go look at the skills specific to being a summoner. At level 30, upon completing your first job quest and becoming summoner, you get Summon 3. This, like Summon 1 and 2, takes 3 seconds to cast, has a 2.5 second recast, meaning it's on the global cooldown, and it costs 884 MP. This summons an attacker type pet, a melee pet. It runs up and it punches things. Or, as I like to say, spanks them. At level 35, you acquire Fester. This 5-second cooldown will deal damage based on how many of your damage over time effects you have on, for your bio and miasma effects. If you have only one, it's a potency 150 attack. If you have both, it's a potency 300 attack. And it can only be cast if the effects are yours. If you don't have your own bio and miasma effects on the enemy, but they have them from, say, a scholar who's healing your party, you can't use Fester. You have to have your own dots on them. This skill consumes an ether flow stack. And once more, ignore the ethereal attunement. That's for post 50. At level 40, you acquire Tri-Bind. This is a global cooldown, 2.5 second cast AoE spell. It has a 5-yalm radius around your target. It costs 884 MP at level 60, so casting this is like summoning a pet. It has a potency of 30 and applies a 20-second bind to everything under its effect. Ignore the Dreadworm Trance effect, that's post 50. And finally, at level 50, you acquire Enkindle. This 3-minute cooldown will allow you to have whichever pet you have summoned use their signature attack, their ultimate move. Which is why you can only use it once every 3 minutes. It's freaking powerful. Now, let's get to the role actions. What ones you have, and which ones I'm using. As you can see, there are 5 slots. Each one has a different level on them. You have to reach that level with the class or job you are playing to unlock that slot. Once unlocked, it is permanently unlocked, even if you level sync below its level. The same thing happens once you acquire a role action, such as Addle, acquired at level 8. It is a 90-second cooldown which will allow you to reduce the intelligence of an enemy by 10% for 10 seconds, making them deal less magic damage for 10 seconds. At level 12, you acquire Break, a global cooldown spell with a 2.5 second cast time, MP cost of 0. It's only potency 50, and it applies a 20% heavy for 20 seconds. It has its uses here and there, but is usually not really worth having. At level 16, you acquire Drain, a global cooldown 2.5 second cast spell, which costs 442 MP at level 60. It's a potency 80 attack that will absorb some of the damage it does as HP. It's not amazing. At level 20, you acquire Diversion. This 2-minute cooldown will reduce the enmity you generate. In other words, the amount of hate you get off enemies for the next 15 seconds. If your hate is starting to get a little high, activate this so that the tank can get ahead of you again. You don't want to be the one with all the hate. You're squishy as heck. You're a mage. At level 24, you acquire Lucid Dreaming. This 2-minute cooldown will cut in half the amount of enmity you have, as well as give you a potency 80 MP refresh for 21 seconds, which will regenerate your MP. If you're having lots of aggro issues, you might want this, but you generally shouldn't need it for your MP. You're usually pretty good on that. At level 32, you acquire Swift Cast. This is a 60-second cooldown that gives you a 10-second buff consumed as soon as you cast a spell, because it makes your next spell instant. Guess what spell you want to use that on? Yep, Resurrection. Instead of spending 8 seconds not doing any damage, you just have the global cooldown and then you're back to dealing damage after getting whoever just died back up. Especially useful if it was your healer. Speaking of having to revive a fallen healer, if that happens, you're going to want to have Mana Shift. This 2-minute cooldown allows you to transfer 20% of your own maximum MP to a targeted party member. So if you just had to revive your healer, they have no MP. So give them some of yours, just to get them back up and running. Since you have Aetherflow, you can get back half of what you just gave them in one use of it. So it's not that big a hit to you. At level 40, you acquire a Pocket of Stasis, a 90-second cooldown which allows you to apply a magic protection to target party member, probably your tank, which will make them take 20% less magic damage for 10 seconds. Really great for magic tank busters. At level 44, you acquire Surecast. This 30-second cooldown applies a 5-second buff, making your spells uninterruptible. Meaning, if an enemy hits you with critical hits, you're not interrupted like you normally would be. I'm pretty sure if you're put to sleep or silenced or stunned, you still can't cast. And if you move, you interrupt your cast. It also will make you immune to most knockback and draw-in effects, because those forcibly move you. And finally, we have Erase. It's a 90-second cooldown which will remove a single damage over time effect from the targeted party member other than you. So you can't use it on yourself. And it has a potency 200 heal on that person as well. As you can see, I have Addle, Diversion, Swiftcast, Pocket of Stasis, and Mana Shift, so I don't have room for Erase even if I wanted to use it. Now, let's get into your pet's actions and commands. First, there's a series of commands. Away, which just desummons them, usually not a very useful ability. Heal, which orders them to follow you wherever you're going. You generally want to keep them on heal most of the time. Place, which allows you to have them go stand in a specific spot. This can be very useful. Stay, which orders them to just stay wherever they happen to be. So if you walk them to where you want them to be, and give them the order stay and then walk away. Guard will keep them from just will have them attack if you attack something, or come under attack. Steady will have them not do anything unless ordered to. This can be useful if you're just trying to run past a bunch of enemies and you don't want your pet to get distracted. These next two are effectively stances. Sick has your pet just doing whatever it wants, whenever it wants, which is not usually a very good idea. If it's your tanking pet, you can get away with doing that. But if it's either of your attacking pets, don't. You will be wasting their abilities. Or taking people off, depending on what ability gets used. Obey is the stance you want your pets in generally all the time, because it allows you to have them use only their primary ability on their own. Everything else is at your command. Now, let's talk about Garuda Eggy. This is the pet summoned with Summon. Their bread and butter skill is Windblade. It's a 1-second cast time, 3-second recast spell. It has a potency of 110, and they will just use this on their own automatically on whatever enemy you've targeted, or use Sick or Obey to order them to attack, because you can do that. Shockwave is a 90-second cooldown. It is a potency 90 attack with a 15 Yalm knockback. You don't want to be using this willy-nilly, because when an enemy is sent flying, it moves them out of the range of your tank and any melee DPS you might have, and it can push them out of the attack range of other ranged DPS, or just break their line of sight, interrupting whatever they were in the middle of doing. It's not helpful. It actually causes your entire party to do less damage overall. But there are times when you can use it. When the enemy can't be knocked back, or when they're using a skill that needs to be interrupted right now, and nobody has a stun or a silence available. At level 20, Garuda Eggy can use Aerial Slash. This is a 30-second cooldown that has a 5 Yalm radius around the targeted enemy. It's a potency 90 AoE attack. Feel free to have her use this at every available opportunity, especially in group fights, because it's just extra damage. There's no downside. At level 40, Garuda Eggy can use Contagion. This is a 60-second cooldown which will make the targeted enemy take 10% more magic damage for 15 seconds. Very useful when you're trying to churn out max damage. And now, for Garuda Eggy's ultimate attack, triggered only with the use of Enkindle. So it doesn't matter if she's in sick, she can't use this on her own. You have to order her. This is a 5 Yalm radius AoE attack with a potency of 250 to everything in the affected area around the targeted enemy. It of course hits the targeted enemy as well. Next, let's talk about Titan Eggy. Summoned with Summon 2, he is your tank pet. His bread and butter attack is Rockbuster. It is a 3-second cooldown instant ability. It's called a spell. It's basically like the weapon skills for DPS. It is a potency 85 attack with increased enmity. He punches things and makes them hate him. That's his purpose in life. He also, at level 1, has Mountain Buster, though you can't even summon him below level 15. These are just to give him a placeholder ability so that he always has it. This is a 15-second cooldown, which has him attack everything around him within a 5 Yalm radius for a potency 70, and this has increased enmity. It's his AoE hate skill. As you can see, since his job is to hold hate, there isn't really any reason for him to... you can keep him on Obey and micromanage him if you want, but he does fine in Sick, because he'll just spam his abilities, and his abilities are safe to be spammed. Mostly. At level 20, he gains access to Earthen Ward, a 2-minute cooldown, which makes him take 20% less damage for 20 seconds. Again, there's not really any reason for him to not use this in the middle of a fight. At level 40, he gets the only ability you might want to keep him on Obey for. It's a 40-second cooldown, potency 70 attack, Landslide. it applies a 2-second stun. Enemies build a resistance to stun effects, so if this enemy is doing something that needs to be stunned, you don't want him stunning randomly. You want him stunning only when needed. But if it doesn't matter, you can keep him on sick. And at level 50, once you have access to Enkindle, you can order him to use Earthen Fury, a potency 200 attack to everything around him in a 5-yalm radius that will also put a damage over time area on the ground called Raised Earth, which will deal a potency 20 attack to any enemy standing inside of it about every 3 seconds for the next 15 seconds. So pretty useful. And now, for the first pet you can get as a summoner, which as you level up, you do some job quests which will upgrade your summon and summon 2 spells to replace the carbuncles you had as an Arcanist with the Eggies. So until you gain the ability to summon Garuda Eggie, you're going to be sticking with Ifrit Eggie, who is summoned with Summon 3, simply because he does more damage than Emerald Carbuncle can possibly do. At level 1, he has Crimson Cyclone, a 40-second cooldown, 2-second stun with a potency of 110. So you're going to want him on obey so he doesn't randomly waste this ability. He also has Burning Strike, which is his bread and butter. He uses this constantly attack. It is a 3-second cooldown, instant cast spell with a potency of 135. Yeah, he has a higher damage than Garuda Eggie, but he's also melee, making him more likely to get hit by things and die. Also, he can't make things take more damage. At level 20, he gains access to Radiant Shield, a 60-second cooldown which will, within a 15-yalm radius centered on him, apply a barrier to himself and all party members. Every time they suffer an attack, it will deliver a potency 50 attack to the attacker, and it lasts for 20 seconds. It will also increase the physical damage taken by the recipient of its attack by 2%, and that effect lasts for 4 seconds. At level 40, he gains access to Flaming Crush. This is a 30-second cooldown. It is a 5-yalm radius centered on him. Potency 110 attack to everything near him. That's an enemy. It doesn't hurt your tank, so don't worry. You're not going to nuke your friend. And at level 50, through the use of Enkindle, you can order him to use Inferno, a 5-yalm long, 5-yalm wide cone attack. It is a potency 200 attack to everything in a cone in front of Ifrit Eggie, and also applies a potency 20 damage over time that lasts for 15 seconds, dealing its damage about once every 3 seconds. So, with all of that covered, let's get into the nitty-gritty. I'll start by summoning Ifrit Eggie. What's this? I've summoned a Ruby Carbuncle. Yeah, I'm using Eggie Glamours. There's a side quest you can do as summoner a little bit later into the game. I believe it's like level 50. It might be sooner. Which allows you to apply glamours to your Eggies, making them look like a carbuncle. They're not a carbuncle, but they look like one. So, Ifrit, I'm putting you on Obey, which also orders you to go attack this thing. And now you can see him using his little spank attack. Use Radiant Shield. Good boy. Use Flaming Crush. Good boy. Use Crimson Cyclone. Good boy. Alright. Use Inferno! Beautiful. Okay. Now, I'm going to summon Titan Eggie. Now, I'm going to have to wait for his abilities to come off cooldown before I can show you his abilities, and we have to wait for Enkindle before I can use his ultimate. So, now's as good a time as any to start showing off some of the other skills. I can't demonstrate Mana Shift because I have no party members, but I can... Let's see here. I'm pretty sure I can give a pocket of stasis to a pet. No, I can't. Anyway, go punch that thing for me. Oh, has Carbuncle? Oh. There we go. Don't mind me, I'm slightly incompetent. Yeah, so I can't mana shift to Topaz Carbuncle. I can't mana shift to myself, and I can't use a Pocket of Stasis on myself. But I can use Addle on this dummy. The dummy is now stupid! Hooray! Let's see here. What else can I do? Because Enkindle is still on cooldown. Well, use Mountain Buster. Good boy. Use Earthen Ward. Good boy. And Landslide. There you go. Now you've seen everything he can do. Except for his ultimate. So I'm going to have to wait another little while to get that. In the meantime, let's see. I can't demonstrate Ruin 1 because I have a spell which replaces it from above level 50, so you won't get to see that. But, here's Shadow Flare. It allows me to inflict damage over time to enemies within that little zone. Very useful. Let's see here. I also do have skills that are from beyond level 50 that I can't demonstrate. I even have skills that I don't technically have access to yet because they're from levels beyond level 60, which is what I am. But Square is gracious enough to let you just stick all of the skills on your bar whenever you want to. So, let's see. Let's put on a Bio, and a Miasma, and I'll use a Ruin too. Now, Summoner's Rotation is basically spamming their primary damage spell, their Ruin spell, whenever they aren't maintaining their damage over time effects. If your damage over time effect gets to about 5 seconds, you want to replace it. So, I just replaced my Miasma and my Bio. Oh, I can use Enkindle again. Use Earthen Fury! Isn't that pretty? Now, let's summon Garuda Eggy. And now, Garuda Eggy, good girl. And her abilities are almost all off cooldown at this point. I just need to wait for Shockwave. So, we're just going to stand here and wait a couple of seconds. Then I can demonstrate some of the other skills that I have access to, which will hopefully kill enough time for Enkindle to come off cooldown so I can show off her ultimate attack. Because I do want to at least demonstrate everything Summoner can do. But overall, Summoner's abilities are pretty straightforward, and they have a very loose rotation since it's just maintain your dots, spam your damage spell, micromanage your pet to order them to use their additional abilities, such as Shockwave, which is effectively a melee attack, so they have to get in close to use it. That is a knockback. Let's use Aerial Slash. As you can see, it did hit that other striking dummy. If I had her targeting the one in the middle, which I'm going to move her over to that one, then it would have hit everything around that dummy. It would have hit the one on the left and the one on the right. Now, Contagion makes this thing take more magic damage. Which is very useful for ensuring increased damage. Ooh, that was a direct critical hit. Oh, that's something I should mention. Only damage skills can get direct hits. Everything can get criticals, but direct hits only apply to damaging abilities. Oh, and I can demonstrate Aerial Slash hitting more than 2 things. See? There's now 3 dummies that hate us. Alright. I've demonstrated Shadow Flare, Bio, Miasma, Ruin 2. Demonstrated those. Let's demonstrate Tribind. There we go. It's not the most impressive thing, but it has its uses. In general, you're not going to be using it even for damage because it costs so much and does so little. I can't demonstrate Resurrection because I don't have a dead player anywhere nearby, but you know what? Instant Tribind, just because I can. I'm going to rouse Garuda Eggy so she does more damage for a little while. I have far too much enmity. I need to slow down. I need to slow my roll a little. Garuda Eggy is taking some damage. Let me just do this so she's recovering health. Now she'll just periodically recover 8% of her maximum health, which is very useful. I can also help heal her up by casting Physic on her. But as you can see, Physic doesn't do much. Alright, now... that's Ether Flow, recovering 1/10 of my maximum MP. I now have the ability to use some of my Ether Flow skills. Let's see, how many of them do I have? Let's see, I've got Bane, Fester, Pain Flare as a post 50, and I've got Energy Drain, so I've got 3 of them. So, let's see... well... Energy Drain, it doesn't matter when you use it on target. It's just a potency 150 attack. And you can see my gauge down in the bottom right is now showing something very special. I won't be talking about that until the level 60 video. But let me just apply my Bio and my Miasma. Then I will Bane, and now I will use Fester. If you are in a single target fight, you can apply your damage and more time effects, and then just save all 3 of your Ether Flows for multiple Festers. Now, due to the post-50 effects, I can't use Ether Flow again right now. As you just saw, when I went to use it, nothing happened. I didn't get any stacks of Ether Flow, I just got MP. But, it's time to demonstrate the last thing I have to show you guys. Alright, Garuda. It's time for you to use your ultimate attack. Isn't that beautiful? Now, if you want your pet to stop attacking, put them on steady. They will just completely ignore the enemies from then on. But yes, micromanaging your pets is an important part of being a summoner. Now, I don't have my crossbars set up for this because I don't play Summoner that often, and were I to go play Summoner, I would put the abilities of the pet I'm going to be using on my crossbars so I could have direct and immediate control, rather than having to keep popping in and out of this. Because it's time-consuming and prevents me from using my own skills as quickly as I would like. But I've covered everything I need to show you all, so I hope this video has been informative and helpful. If it hasn't, well, I'm going to have to summon up some new techniques. Until my next video, goodbye.